Hello and welcome to the Game Design Archive with Edward and Ludwig.
Hello.
Hello, Ludwig. Today we're gonna talk about board games.
Yes.
And why they're putting video games to shame.
Mm-hmm.
Go, Ludwig.
So, yes. As you all probably know, we are a channel dedicated mostly to video games, right? We always discuss video games in our video, but But in this one, we're actually going to discuss board games, because there are a few things that board games do better than video games, and there are a few things that board games do worse than video games, and we want to discuss that and see what we can learn from them and so on. And so, without further ado, I'm gonna talk about the first thing, which annoys me a lot about video games. And to start, I'm going to talk about JRPGs. Oof. I'm putting myself in hot water here, whatever the saying is. So the reason I want to bring up JRPGs is because this is like the genre I see this problem the most in. And that's that they don't sort of explain what the rules are for the game.
Yes.
Right. And so the reason I take JRPGs as an example is because a lot of them, they're RPGs, so like numbers matter and stuff like that. And so, if I want to take the flaming sword or the water sword, I need to know what stats it has and so on to be able to make an informed decision as a player, right? The problem is that in a lot of JRPGs, they say like, oh yeah, this sword does a lot of damage, or it does a mega lot of damage, or ultra lot of damage, or a little bit of damage, and there's no way for the player to know what this means, because the this item does a lot of damage is completely subjective. It's the subjective opinion of the game developer, right? And they might be bad at the game, which is often the case, and so sometimes they will say like, oh yeah, this item is very good, so trust me, bro, and then it's not actually very good, and then sometimes it's the opposite way around, right? And so, how does this relate to board games? Well, the thing about board games is that, it's the player who's keeping track of the rules, right? And so everything needs to be explained. Yes. And that's very nice. Don't you agree, Edward?
In some cases, it's nice.
In some cases, oof.
Well, see...
Elaborate.
The thing is, I would actually take that a step further. Not only does the player need to keep track of the rules, they need to keep track of the rules, right? And that implies that the rules need to be understandable, right?
Yes.
So a lot of video games have very complicated systems that is hard to track, even if you can know how they work, right?
Yeah.
And the result of such systems is usually that you ignore them. It's the usual discussion we've had about some RPGs where the numbers are just, there's too many small numbers and you can't be bothered, right? So you just pick whatever and go for it. Also, like a combination of difficulty is not too high or high enough or whatever, right? But I guess it also becomes an issue in board games because they also sometimes make it too complicated and it's not that fun to deal with on the... I think there is a large benefit to the fact that the computer can keep track of the rules. But I think that the way rules are structured in board games are way better because they are understandable to the player, right?
Yes. Yeah, I think it's important to make the distinction between complexity and understandability, because a game can be very complex but still the rules are very clear and understandable.
Yeah, but that's still not fun on the in a board game, right? Whereas it could be fun in a video game.
Yes. But the problem, generally, we're probably going to discuss this later, but I'm of the opinion that a lot of board games are too complex.
Yeah.
But they are still, even if they are complex, they can't get away with having poorly explained rules, right? Or, well, they can, but then nobody's going to play them because nobody understands the rules. Whereas a video game, a lot of times, video games are too complex, and then they don't properly explain the rules either. So it's but the problem with that, right, is like since the player doesn't need to understand the rules in a video game, right? They can still play the video game without understanding the rules. A lot of times video games get away with it, which board games don't. And I think that's the sort of problem or the main thing that I think is the benefit of board games, right? It's that they can't get away with poorly explained rules, sort of.
Well, they can. No one will buy the game. That's
exactly.
Because no one will like it and no one will play it because they don't.
Yeah, but there's like a lot of games that people say, like video games. Sorry, a lot of video games that people say are great that like aren't explained whatsoever. I mean,
well, let's be real. A lot of them are not. They're not playing them for the gameplay.
Yeah, true.
So,
but like even you know, in our offense. I don't know if you can say that, but like, you know, we talk a lot about Fire Emblem, about how great some of the Fire Emblem games are, and like still, you know, if we take Fate's Conquest as an example, right? If you want to play that, you kind of need to sit with the wiki up on a second screen, right? It's like, it's kind of bad in that way, and nothing is explained. And like, if any of you watched the Game of the Year video that we did at the beginning of the year, I talked about Those Who Rule, which is a fantastic game that came out last year, and that's like basically Fire Emblem, but all of the like Fire Emblem things are explained, and so like it's way better in that regard. Like it does some things worse, right, than the Fire Emblem games, but like playing that game was like very refreshing and interesting because it's like everything you need to know about the game is in the game. I don't need to tab out every 15 minutes to like check what this character, like what combination of characters create which character and whatever, you know, stuff like that.
But in Fire Emblem's defense, actually, I agree with you 100%. It's ridiculous how like you literally cannot figure out how to play that game inside the game. But the rules are actually quite simple.
Yes.
Which is interesting. So for an RPG, that system is very straightforward, right? It's like, the defense is like attack minus defense, right? Or something. So it's very, very easy to do the math and figure. Some of them are a bit more complicated, but they're still not complicated to the point where you can't get a general idea of what the number should be. Like the hit chance stuff is a bit dumb in like how it's calculated, but you can still kind of figure out about what range you'll have, and then they also lie about hit rates, which is garbage. But my point with that is that that's another aspect that actually has nothing to do with how the rules are explained to do, but the other aspect you were talking about, which is you need to keep track of the rules. And I think that's a bigger issue, at least for me, with strategic video games. Which is that, right, for the math, right? If you play a board game or a tabletop war game or something, right, where you have, you know, or like, you know, Blood Bowl, we have talked about Blood Bowl for the board game, right? You need, if you play it on the board, you need to be able to do the math, right? Yeah. And that's not actually, I mean, they thought about it because you need to understand the rules, but not for the strategic purpose, right? I mean, maybe they did. I'm not saying they're stupid, right? But for a lot of video games, at least to me, they are not that interesting, like strategic video games I'm talking about. Specifically like, oh, I need to do math, I need to like think, okay, I have this character here and this character, which one should I attack with or whatever, right? That kind of game. Again, like Fire Emblem or whatever. It's games like that, those rule like you talked about or whatever, right? If the calculations are too complicated, that sort of ruins the strategy, in my opinion. Like the if you can't, and like you said, it's like, oh, it deals a lot of damage or whatever. And I'm not saying, by the way, that because some games has RNG and stuff, so it's like, oh, you might, like, you can have a range of damage. That's totally fine, but it needs to be clear so you can do the evaluation of, oh, okay, I have, we make a super boring game, like a Pokemon style game, right? Where it's like, oh, you have wind damage and that's good against some other damage or whatever, right? And then you can know that, right? And then you can do the math because, oh, it's the range of damage is gonna be between 10 and 20, and if I do this attack, then I can guarantee the the final blow next turn or something, right?
Yeah.
If you can't do that, it's a super boring strategy game.
Yeah.
So you kind of need that math.
I think one pretty good example of this is XCOM, the modern XCOM like remakes. Not with damage numbers, because the damage numbers are pretty clear, I think. It was a long time ago I played that. But like hit chances in XCOM. I think I've talked about this in the podcast before, but like XCOM is fairly unclear about how hit chances are calculated.
Yeah, I have no idea.
To some extent, it's like
you just
the problem is kind of that it's
right, because you don't know.
Yeah,
because you don't know what's gonna be there and where they're gonna be. And
yeah, but that's not necessarily what I'm talking about. I'm talking more about like if I have a character and an enemy, and I say I want to attack this enemy with this character.
Yeah.
There's like, and let's say I need to move that character in range, right? There's like no way for me to like completely be sure about what the hit chance is gonna be, right? Because there's like a bunch of different factors, and then there's also the fact that the way cover works in XCOM is kind of unclear, right?
Yeah,
because it's like, because if the enemy's in cover, they have a lowered chance to get hit.
Yeah.
But like the evaluation of who is in cover or who isn't to which enemy or whatever is very unclear, right? Because it's not based on, well, maybe it is based on, but it's not clear about it, at least. I don't know how it works. Like, it's not based on a simple like, oh, this is the way the rule works. It's more like intuition based, I guess. Which, for someone who's experienced at XCOM, they might go, oh yeah, if I put my character there, he's gonna probably have a 85% hit chance, whatever. But like, for someone who isn't experienced, like, there's no way for them to know. So what ends up happening is that, when I play XCOM, I just play as defensively as possible, right? Because I don't know what the hit chances are gonna be, right? Whereas with something like Fire Emblem, where it's more, I mean, as you said, hit chances are a bit iffy, right? But like, there's more
I mean, you can. They're not that iffy, actually. It's just you can't get the exact number, right? So you can be like, okay, it's like, it's like, okay, I have a lot of skill and I'm using this kind of weapon, like the stats skill, right? And something like that. And then it's like, okay, maybe he has a lot of crit, depending on the luck or whatever. And so you can get a like general idea of like, okay, he's probably not gonna hit, right?
Yeah.
But just to clarify what I meant with the push forward, that's exactly what you said, where it's like, I think if, for me at least, in XCOM, if it was like, oh, I can just put my character there, because if I put him there and he's behind that cover, that's going to be like 20% hit chance, so that's going to be fine to put him there, right? But I don't know that, so I need to crawl forward, because I don't want any enemy to be able to shoot at me, because I don't know what's going to hit or not.
To be fair, I do think that this has like become a little bit better, at least in a few games. Like, I'm thinking more of like I think they're called perfect information games. I think that's the like official term. So like Into the Breach, and then the like what's it called? The newest what's it called? The Metal Slug Tactics game. Have you played that?
No.
It's like, those are like very, like, they could be board games, because they're very understandable in that way. So I think there's like a subgenre of strategy games which are very good with this. But then there's like a lot of them that aren't. But I think it's something that designers have become more aware of, at least good designers.
Yes.
So yeah.
And I mean, we've talked about this before, but we can bring it up as well. You can't lie with RNG on board games, which is fucking great.
Yes.
Because that's the dumbest, stupidest shit ever that video games do.
Yes.
There's a famous talk. I mean, famous, you can't argue, right? Is it... It's what's his name? Help me.
Jonathan Blow?
No, he responds to it.
Well, yeah,
Sid Meier's.
You mean Sid Meier? Yeah, okay.
Where he's like, oh, look, you can just cheat the RNG and people are happier, and it's like the most scummy thing I've ever heard in my life, basically.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, lie to the players so they think they know how random numbers work. Great idea, fucking idiot. Yeah. Sorry for being mean to him, but like he probably
he deserves it.
Yeah.
And Jonathan Blow has a great talk where he talks about why he's stupid. About that.
I mean, he's probably smart. I'm not gonna say just that thing I disagree with, is what I'm saying. Yeah. I don't want to be too mean to him.
Yeah. But we did briefly mention it, and in the beginning, and that's that, going back to board games, in general they are more understandable and less complicated or whatever, but that's not always the case, right? And I have a bit of a legendary example that very few people are probably gonna have heard of, and that's the board game called One Deck Galaxy.
Oof.
Now, I remember we tried playing that, and
I remember
was like
you said, "Oh, it's not." I had read up on the rules before, and I said, "I give up." Here, when you get here, you can look at it and figure it out. I'm too stupid. And you were like, "Oh, you're stupid, Edward."
Yep.
And I was like, "Sure, yeah, I'm stupid. You go read them." And
and then I read the rules, and I was like, "What the fuck was the designer on when he wrote this rule book? Because nothing makes any sense whatsoever." And then we watched an official how to play the game video by the designer. And we still didn't understand because nothing made sense in that video either. And it was the most comical board game experience I've ever had, because it was just comically poorly written.
And he had made another one, right? The One Deck Dungeon.
One Deck Dungeon, which was actually fine.
More straightforward, right? So we were thinking, well, it's the same rules probably, right? But it was way more confusing. So
because One Deck Galaxy is the sci-fi version of One Deck Dungeon, right? Yeah. But the thing is, it was way more complex, and none of the rules made any sense. And he used different terms to describe the same thing, and then used even more different terms to describe other things, and it was super confusing. So if you want to read a confusing rulebook, we can definitely recommend One Deck Galaxy. In fact, if you want to have a free copy sent, we can give it to you, but only one. No, just kidding. So it's sort of as we said, right? In general, board games have to be better at explaining the rules, but obviously when they fail miserably, right? Because if One Deck Galaxy was a video game, we could probably understand it, right, by just playing it and seeing what happens.
There is a video game, actually.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah. There's a
video game version, so you could play that.
Maybe we should try it out as an experiment. Yeah, but so my point is that if we played the video game version, right, we probably would have been able to play the game and sort of understand it. But the game probably isn't very good considering how confusing the rulebook is written.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah. Another point to our original, or a bit different, but I want to bring it up anyways, is that because board games can't have real-time elements, they usually, you could argue you could have a arm wrestle fight or something.
I think I've seen some real-time tactical board games.
Yeah, but in general they're turn-based, right? Because obviously you need. Yeah. I think people understand what I mean, right? And what turn-based games usually do is they use random numbers, right? And I feel actually a lot of board games use random numbers really well compared to a lot of video games, right? Where it's you'll throw a die or two, and it will be it will be very thought out about how those numbers work, right? It's usually you can manipulate them with some kind of thing, right? You know what I mean, right? Where it's okay, you need to roll this number, but if you do this and this and that, you need to roll less numbers or whatever, right? Or maybe you get more die or something, right? And computer games are less good at, they do that kind of stuff, but again with the clarity, right? Where it's okay, now it's like you said with hit chance, it's okay, now it's 80, now it's 20. Why? I don't know. I just play careful and hope you have a good number. Yeah. And another thing is that, which I think is very unfortunate actually, because I don't like. There are action RPGs that are fine, but in general, I think that's a bad genre. I think. RPGs I would say is bad, right? Because builds could be interesting in an action game, right? Where it's you can pick stuff, but RPG stats and stuff is actually not that interesting in real-time combat, right? I don't know if you disagree.
Yeah, I think I've talked about my beef with Dark Souls before, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's that game is great, but it's not because it's an RPG, right?
Yeah,
the build variety is cool, but the RPG systems just ruin the difficulty. Or whatever.
Yeah, I think like I absolutely understand why it's in the game and why it's popular, right?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons that Dark Souls is popular. In fact, that like there's a bit for everyone, right? If you like action gameplay, you can do the action gameplay. If you like RPGs, you can do the RPG. The problem I have with Dark Souls, like I think it's a good game. It's not that I absolutely hate it or think it's terrible, but like my problem when I play Dark Souls or Souls-like games is that, you know, you can like tough it out and like do the boss, or you can like go and grind a little bit and get more powerful and then return to the boss, and it's way easier. Now in Dark Souls it's not like you can't grind too much, like you can't become super OP,
arguably
right?
you could if you spend insane amounts of hours, but it would take longer than
exactly, it would take a really long time, but like
because like
still
you can
the fact that
trivialize
like
the first Dark Souls if you know, like if you look up the best builds or what, you can you can like one shot stuff potentially if you're like really
even bosses.
Well, with magic, for example, you can definitely do it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sure, it's gonna take way longer than to just learn the boss, probably, but or like even if you don't one shot it, like armors and stuff in that game is ridiculously OP. So you can just take a really big armor. Like I think we've talked about this before, right? Where it's like in the first Dark Souls, there's all these stats, right? And the best stat to take is like if you're not good at the game, right? And if you want to take it slow and safe, you just max out I think it's vitality, the health stat, because like you can just upgrade your weapon, it's gonna do enough damage, and you can have a health bar that is as long as the screen, and I mean, sure, you're gonna take damage, but just you have healing, and right, so what was my point? Or did you want to say something first?
No, I was gonna ask what your point was.
But actually I want to defend action when you were saying that, because if you look back further because I feel like Souls games do it better than most action RPGs. I think that's because of their legacy, because their legacy is this like pseudo action games, right? Which is the first person RPGs, which is like,
isn't it called like Kingsfield or something?
Kingsfield and the Eternal Ring, and they have a bunch of different ones. Something Tower, I think. Whatever. But the point is I think those games are kind of interesting because those are sort of, I don't want to call them puzzles, right? But it's like, I need to find this item so I can get past this part, and right? It's more RPG, classic RPG, but it's technically action based, but like the action combat is actually, it's like, right? So it's like it's not. So I think those are kind of fine, right? But if it's more like nuanced, like if you can use skill to outmaneuver the RPG elements, funny enough, I think it's bad to have RPG elements. So if you need the RPG elements to progress, which is like you're literally blocked by the RPG progression, then it's better, ironically, for me, because that's part of the gameplay then.
Yeah, I agree, because they end up like detracting from each other, right? The RPG mechanics makes the action combat gameplay worse, and the action combat gameplay makes the RPG mechanics worse, right? So they're less than the sum of their parts in a way.
So a game like Kingsfield or whatever is more about finding the optimal build, right? It's not technically about action, like movement proficiency. I mean, there's probably a little bit. I assume there's some pro Kingsfield player that can do everything in level 1 or whatever in that game, but it's more in the turn-based direction, right? So my point with that is that a lot of modern RPGs, right, they are arguing that turn-based combat is not realistic, like Final Fantasy, right? And they're making these RPG action games that are extremely boring in my opinion, especially compared to, like, even I agree with you that Final Fantasy is probably one of the less interesting JRPG systems, right? Something like it's not perfect, but I think something like the SMT or like Persona stuff, like those are more interesting with their like counter stuff. It's still not perfect, and they also are super obscure with the
and they're also like super grindy as well.
The games, but I'm talking about the combat system. Where it's like, you need to, you get the like, there's like some thought in it where it's like, do you remember how it works? It's like when you counter them, you get like, you can down them, and then you get like extra moves and stuff. That's sort of interesting, right? So yeah, so that's my point was then that because board games, right? We're back to board games now. Because board games can't do action combat. They're not doing this stupid thing that video games are doing, because video games are like, oh, we need to make this more skill based. Like, it's not skill based that you do Mr. Knight threw his axe. Oh, it missed, right? That's not skill based. So we need to make it like you need to move the stick, right?
Yeah.
But board games can't do that. So they're actually making that skill based instead, right? They're like, oh, what if you could like manipulate the hit chance of that axe throw or something, right? So they make way more fun and interesting. You get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
So basically, because video games has the possibility to be action games, they ruin the turn-based designs, right?
Yeah.
That was my point with that thing.
With that tangent.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, and like
I intended really.
No, yeah, it was relevant. Don't worry. But like that got me sort of thinking about EU5, right? Because if you watch the podcast, you know I'm a big fan of Europa Universalis 4, and I've probably mentioned previously in the podcast that like EU5, I haven't played it, but it doesn't look very good at all. Like it looks like there's a bunch of complexity, but like no depth and no interesting gameplay whatsoever. So I haven't actually played it. I'm like waiting for it to go on Super Sale in like 3 years, and then I'll try it and I'll be mad because it sucks.
Maybe they patched it by then though. You don't know.
Yeah, true. Maybe they added gameplay into it. But like one of the because EU5 is like somewhat successful, right? People are generally saying, although I do think they're coming around and being like, okay, maybe we overhyped EU5 a bit. But like one of the things that people say about EU4 as a critique when they talk about EU5 is that EU4 is way more like a board game and EU5 is way more like a simulation of real life or whatever.
Oh my god, that sounds terrible.
yeah, exactly. And like I think it's so funny because I think like strategy and like turn-based games and whatever are better when they are more like board games, right? Because of all the things we've talked about already. And so it's kind of funny when people say, oh yeah, EU4 is like a board game, it sucks. Well, like no, that's not a like proper derogatory term or whatever. It's like I if you say it's more like a board game than the other one, I'm like, yeah, sure, let me play it. I want to try it out.
The board game one. I want to play the board game one.
Yeah, exactly, because it's more understandable and stuff like that. Now, EU4 is also insanely complex, right? Yeah. So it's a bit too complex. But like, if EU4 is insanely complex, and then people say that EU5 is even more complex, you know.
But I feel like, it's probably, even though I don't play a lot of Paradox games, I feel like looking at their UIs, they have a lot of information in their UIs, which is great compared to a lot of other games. Like. I mean, I love Japanese games, but I feel like a lot of, maybe it's a like legacy thing where they did that before, so they keep doing it. So like you said, like JRPGs or like Japanese RPGs, they really don't like to tell you what stuff does for some reason.
No, yeah.
So
yeah. I've talked about this before, I think, but like in general, Paradox games, because it's Paradox Interactive who make EU4. In general, those games are pretty good at like actually conveying how the gameplay works.
Yeah.
Like some things are a bit like obscure to find, but there's like I think trade in EU4, it's like you can find the information, but you need to go to like a menu and then a sub-menu in that, and then you need to like take that number and combine it with a number in another menu, and then, you know, stuff like that. But like in general, I think especially Crusader Kings 3, even though it's not a very good game, that game has really, really good tooltips, and you can follow the tooltips like to the what do you call it, like the end of the trailer or whatever, and then you can find like the source of everything. So in general, they're pretty good at like what we've been talking about, like explaining how they work.
Because like if we take JRPGs again, like it's a good that you brought it up first, because like back in the day I played JRPGs where it's like, oh, it's not the most popular JRPG, and you can literally not find even in the wiki what the stat
how
means.
Things work.
You can't figure. You have to just. Well, I guess it works this way or something.
Yeah.
There's probably a Japanese wiki where they talk about it or something, right? But not the
I think
one.
What was the game? It's not a Japanese game, but it's like JRPG inspired. Okay. I think it was Chained Echoes, I think it's called.
Right. Yeah.
I think there was a stat. Yeah, I think there was a stat there that this might be wrong. I might be misremembering here, so I'm gonna have to like look it up and like see if I'm spreading misinformation here. But like, if I recall correctly, I played it a little bit, and there's like a stat there, and the game says what it does and whatever. It's like not very. It doesn't sound very important, right? But then like in secret, like the game doesn't explain this whatsoever, but in secret it like lets you do something completely overpowered, like it gives you more turns or whatever, and like the game doesn't tell you that whatsoever. And like when I found that out, I stopped playing that game because like yeah, in general that game is pretty bad at like explaining stuff. It does the thing where it's like, oh, this does a lot of damage and this does a little bit of damage and stuff like that. So yeah, I didn't enjoy that a lot.
Yeah, and also like another thing, it's the same point that we've been making, but let's keep going here, right, with examples. And that is that board games, because again, you need to calculate all the stuff yourself. A lot of them don't have a lot of stats. Some of them do, but a lot of them have fewer stats that are more important. And video games, for some reason, love to give you like 20 stats, and it sucks.
Yeah.
Because you can, why 20? Why not 5?
Yeah.
So you can calculate stuff. And some people I've seen are arguing, well, it's more fun when you see the numbers go up. Yeah, okay, go to the casino or something. I wanna calculate what damage.
Or play EU5 maybe.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
That has a lot of stats. Yeah. No, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, but it seems like in defense of video games, I guess, there are a lot of board games that are very complex, right? Yes, as we've been talking about. And I think the genre is called like Euro games, at least the genre I'm thinking of. Yeah, where it's like super management heavy games with like a bunch of stats and a bunch of numbers, and like the games are 5 hours long and whatever. And like I've played a few of them. Like I think Settlers of Catan is technically a Euro game, though it's fairly simple. But like in that style of game, and like I don't enjoy them.
So what you're saying is they're Euro shmups, basically.
I don't know, maybe. Yeah. I would probably rather play a Euro shmup. Maybe not. No, there's probably good Euro games.
Euro you should not say that.
Yeah, no, that's true.
I mean, I don't think there are probably good Euro shmups, I guess.
I mean, isn't the definition of a Euro shmup technically that it's just bad?
In some people's opinion, that is it. But it's usually like if they have progression and stuff, right? Or like, roguelike style, which is whatever. Or like bad movement. We're not talking about shmups now. We're talking about board games.
No.
Back to board games.
Yeah. But there are of course games. I think one sort of benefit of board games is that at least the good ones generally have they do this thing very well, which like computer strategy games don't do at all, which is that they have simple rules with like that are very deep.
Yeah.
And my example of this that I want to talk about because I love that game is Dominion. It's like the OG deck builder, right? And in general, Dominion is like pretty simple, right? The rules are pretty simple. It's like, oh, you have an action, and then you do your actions, and then you place your money, and then you buy stuff from the market, and then there's victory points, and you need to buy them, and you need to keep them in your deck. So you need to make sure your deck is good enough to. I'm getting ahead of myself, right? But like the rules are fairly simple, but then there's like the consequences of the rules, or whatever you want to call it, are like super interesting. And so, as I said, like you have victory points, right? And to score, you need to have victory point cards in your deck. The problem is that the victory points don't do anything, so they like clog up your deck. So you need a deck that's good in order to like play past the victory points. You need to like be able to draw more cards and get more actions and stuff like that. And so like even from a fairly simple set of rules, something like Dominion is very interesting.
Yes.
And I think board games, when they do that well, they do it way better than video games, because I think especially strategy video games tend to fall into the trap of like just adding complexity. I mean, look at EU5. It's like it's EU4, but like it's just super duper duper complex, and it's not interesting whatsoever.
But in video games defense, a lot of those games actually turn out really well as computer games. So for example, I would argue it's actually more enjoyable to play Dominion on the computer, because there's like multiple computer versions, depending on what you're after, right? If you're after the gameplay, if you're doing it for some other reason, like then might be more fun to use the cards, right? But it's nice because it's faster, right? And the computer can make sure that we don't miss some rule or whatever, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Same with Blood Bowl, right? We talked about Blood Bowl but Blood Bowl is such a fucking good board game. Holy fuck.
Yeah, you should play it.
Yeah, and the computer. I don't know about they made like a 3.
Yeah, Blood Bowl 3 is kind of bad. I think
I don't know,
heard
but
bad stuff about
2
it.
is
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like I don't know. It's kind of weird because you know, I used to play like a lot of 4X games, and I don't anymore really because like I realized that they were all just like complexity without any depth whatsoever, and I feel like board games don't really get away with that as much. Like there are obviously very complex board games that aren't very interesting, right? But like I feel like there's a space in board games for games that are simple but deep, right? And I don't think that's true for computer video games, or
I think
specifically
it is,
strategy games.
Exactly, I was gonna say that. I think
Mm-hmm.
strategy games are actually suffering a lot on PC, or like not PC, on computer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on
whatever platform you're playing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. For some reason they tend to like get more complex or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess people are using the fact that the computer can calculate all the stuff to.
Yeah, I think it's sort of due to the fact like that we've talked about already. It's like due to the fact that you don't need to explain everything and that you don't need to understand everything. Video games are going in this direction, whereas, you know, with a board game designer realizes that if they add complexity to the game, that's complexity that the player needs to remember and to understand and whatever. And so they can't just add complexity however they want.
Yes.
And I think video game designers, in fact, I have spoken to video games designers who are like, oh yeah, the player doesn't need to understand this. We can just do a bunch of weird calculations behind the scenes and it looks cool, and then the player doesn't know and it doesn't matter. And like, no, it does matter because that's gameplay. The player should understand the gameplay. That's like the point of playing a video game.
Yeah, or it's the point of those systems, right? So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I think that is sort of, unfortunately, kind of a truth. Going back to like our talk about wasting time, right? Where they're not adding a lot of the time. These designers are not adding these RPG systems because they want strategy in the game. They're adding it because they want the numbers to go up, right? So the people get the dopamine, so they spend more money. You know, it's just there to psychologically. Speaking is hard. Psychologically manipulate the player, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
It is kind of lame, in my opinion.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There is one thing about what do I want to talk about first? I have two things I want to talk about. Let me think. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about tabletop RPGs first because I hate them. And I no, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna get a lot of hate now. But like, I tried. There was a point in time where I tried getting into tabletop RPGs because like I like computer RPGs, right? Not CRPGs, but like RPGs on the computer. So I was like, I'm gonna try it out. Maybe it's fun, you know? Who knows? And it absolutely was not. Now I'm not saying that all tabletop RPGs suck. There are probably good tabletop RPGs out there. I like.
So to be clear,
the only one.
When you're saying tabletop RPGs, are you talking about like role play?
D&D.
Yeah, D&D. Yeah. Like you're sitting
D&D
at a table or in
a
Discord and with a bunch of people and you're making shit up.
Yeah. They are absolutely atrocious. Now, part of that I think is because I'm not at all interested in like the role-playing aspect of it, which a lot of people seem to be, and that's fine. So like, what was I gonna say? So like, yeah, if someone wants to role-play like a cool, edgy dark elf, whatever, pretend that they're a cool, edgy dark elf, that's fine with me. I don't care. You can do that. But like, I'm not into that at all. So what I'm into what I was looking for when I tried this game is like, is this an interesting system? Like, is it interesting to play in this way? And so on, right? And it really is not. And I think part of it is that like the D&D system in itself is not very interesting. I've talked about that before on the podcast. Like it has way too many stats and like the builds aren't very interesting, and like it's kind of weird because I think for like warriors, for example, you have like, you can make like an agility based warrior or a strength based warrior, but then you you can like get an ability that makes up for the difference. Like if you make an agility warrior, you don't get the damage from the strength stat, but you can like get a skill that makes your agility count as your strength. And so there's like no like what do you say, like trade-offs in the builds whatsoever. It's just you just become more powerful, and it's like kind of uninteresting. Anyways, so D&D sucks, but that's not the main point here. I think the main point is the culture around RPGs, and I think it was Josh Sawyer, you know, the guy who did like Fallout and a bunch of stuff like New Vegas and stuff like that. He talked about this in a video, which I find very interesting, because a lot of RPG players, like tabletop RPG players, they complain about something called power gaming, and that is essentially when you like play to win the game. So essentially you try to make your character as powerful as possible, and that's it, like, right? And a lot of RPG players, complain about that, which makes no sense whatsoever, right? Because like, to me, the point is like, when I play an RPG, I want to make the most epic build ever, right? That's the part that's fun with an RPG. And then people are complaining like, oh no, you shouldn't try to make the most epic build ever. You should like handicap yourself, and like you should really like go into role-playing this edgy dark elf guy that you love so much. And that's what this game is about. And I don't know, it doesn't really make sense.
I think I half disagree with you, because I think... Now, I agree with you. I don't like role-playing at all.
Yeah.
But I think it is a fair kind of... I think... So I agree with D&D being bad. I agree with you. I don't like role-playing. However, I think there is a world where you could create a more interesting role-playing rule set for the role-players, so they could have fun.
Yeah. Yes.
Even though I don't like it.
So yes, like I think that the I think the problem isn't that power gaming is uninteresting. It's that D&D is bad, so that power gaming becomes uninteresting in D&D, right? I think that's the problem. But like, kind of blaming the player, I guess that's the problem I have, because the problem is the D&D system. The problem is that the D&D system isn't interesting whatsoever. Yeah. The problem isn't that players are power gaming and like abusing it to become super powerful. It's that doing that is not interesting, and like it ruins the game for everyone else and whatever.
Yeah, because for that to be fun, you would need a rule set that is more suited for what's the word? Like improvisation, right? So it's
yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think
like you would have
yeah.
What do you call them? Like dungeon masters or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like you need to make the rules have a bunch of mechanics that allows the dungeon master to basically do whatever he wants, right?
Yeah.
But there's still rules or whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I just feel like, because another thing about D&D, like obviously I'm not very very into it whatsoever, right? Because I think it's very bad. But from my understanding, generally when people play D&D, they like don't really care about the rules, right?
Yeah.
At least from like my experience I had playing with it, it's like, oh yeah, this rule is stupid, we don't care about this, and we ignore this like carry weight rule or whatever and stuff like that. And like, I feel like all of these things are symptoms of like the D&D system being bad. And so I guess the point I want to make is that it doesn't make any sense that D&D is popular. Like, it does, like, I can understand why tabletop RPGs are popular, but I can't understand why D&D is popular. And obviously the reason it's popular, yeah. I think obviously the reason that D&D is popular is because it's like the first famous one, and so like that's, everyone just picks that, and then they, as I said, they just play without the rules they find stupid, and then whatever. But like, I feel like there's some potential in tabletop RPGs. Like even if I'm not interested in the role playing part, I'm more interested in like the rules and the making your build part and whatever. I feel like there's potential there to make one that doesn't suck. Because the popular ones do. They really do.
I don't have a lot of experience with that stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, that, again, like I mentioned earlier, that really doesn't interest me, because I am on your side, I guess, with the like I care about the rules or whatever, right? So but I'm not saying that people shouldn't do that, because I think that's kind of interesting, right? With role playing, like that's sort of acting or whatever, right? I don't know what to compare it to, but get what I mean, right? It's like it's your, like there is other aspects to that, right? Where it's like interesting for other reasons than the strategy, right?
Yeah. But I guess my point is that D&D isn't even a very good rule set for
no, that I agree with that. Definitely. Yeah, no,
and
I
so
think
like that's sort of
I think even having an RPG rule set is a bit like in the traditional sense. I think you would have to think.
Yeah.
Again, the reason I say, and I'm not like I haven't thought about it enough, so I'm not completely sure what I think. But I think you would need something completely different, right? Where it's like you want some sort of progression, right? But it shouldn't be. I think it should be more text and less numbers, basically, right? In some way, right? I don't. Yeah.
Maybe,
Because it doesn't really work with numbers in that. I mean, you kind of need some dice roll, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to solve, I guess. But that's my D&D rant. Not a fan. But this sort of also brings me into something related. And I don't know how common this term is, but I've heard it a lot. Maybe it's like a very British thing because it sounds very British. So if you're American, you maybe haven't heard this term. But that's the term a beer and pretzels game. Which it's sort of related to what I'm talking about here with D&D. And I'm back to board games now, not talking specifically about RPGs. And it seems like a lot of people sort of deflect criticism of board games and tabletop games by calling them beer and pretzel game, right? So it's like if someone says, "Oh, this game is bad," blah 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 blah, the response is, "Well, this is a beer and pretzels game. You shouldn't take it very seriously. It's meant to be, you and the lads having a pint at the pub and then playing this game and whatever." And I don't know. I maybe I'm the problem, but I find that sort of thinking to be very 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 stupid, and I think people should have higher standards. Maybe is what I'm trying to say. It's like,
I mean, if you're sitting there, I don't drink, right? But if I was drinking and I had to pick, like, you can literally pick up a deck of cards and play some random card game instead of that garbage beer and pretzels game. That's garbage, right? There's so much. I mean, fucking play chess. I don't know.
Yeah, because it's so weird because there are a lot of simple games that are like interesting. Yeah. And like, as you said, I don't drink either, right? So I don't know, but like it feels like there are a lot of games that, a drunk person could understand and have fun with, and like you could still be social and talk to your friends.
I mean, to be fair, it would be even more fun if you played something more complicated when you were drunk, probably. But probably. I don't know, maybe that's just me.
Yeah, but like the sort of excuse that, oh, it's just meant to be there while you're social with your friends is kind of stupid, because there are simple games that you can do that too as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's sort of, maybe there's stuff like this in video games too, I don't know.
But like they don't say it in that way. It's like, it's party games or something.
Yeah.
But I feel like those are better. I'm thinking like Mario Party or something. That's actually kind of competitive, right? In a way. I mean, it's obviously not super.
I think it's kind of bad, but like...
Is it? Okay, maybe I haven't played it enough.
I played it like once on like together with like 10 different people or whatever. Yeah. But like it's kind of... I haven't played it enough, so maybe I'm wrong here. But I feel like it's a bit... I like RNG a lot, but it feels like that game is a bit too random, right? It's like... how do you say? It's like everyone's supposed to have fun, and so we just make it random, and then... So it's not necessarily the most skilled player that wins, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of in that way. Although I haven't played it too much, so I might be wrong. But that's like my initial impression. It's supposed to be a very casual game, and so they make it like super random just so that like nothing matters, and it's just a social game, Yeah. Yeah. Yes. There was one more thing I wanted to talk about related to board games. Unless do you want to say something?
No, what?
It's just me ranting here today. I'm just doing rant after rant after rant. So that's co-op board games. Now, I remember playing Pandemic with my parents. Now, my parents aren't very big gamers. And so the reason I wanted to play Pandemic was because I thought like, oh, it's cooperative, and then like I can help my parents and like everyone has fun, right? Because what usually ends up happening if we play a serious game is that my parents hate it because they lose, and then everyone else is happy. What ended up happening was that I sat and watched my parents intentionally throw the game and make us lose, and I had to sit there in silence and watch them do it, because if I just told them what to do, that would be mean, right? And I would ruin their experience, right? And the point was that their experience wasn't supposed to be ruined, right? They were supposed to have fun. And so I need to sit there and watch them like blunder completely because they don't understand the game, and like, yeah, I don't know, because it seems like co-op board games are kind of popular, and I really don't understand why, because it doesn't work. It's like,
I don't know.
All the players.
I'm gonna probably disagree with you here, actually.
Okay, go ahead.
I think it does work. So we have played One Dick Dungeon, right? We talked about One Dick Galaxy before. I think it's really interesting to play a board game co-op, actually.
Well, yes, but my point is, I didn't actually get to my point. My point is the problem with co-op board games. Well, it's not necessarily co-op board games. It's co-op like turn-based games where everyone has like perfect information about what everyone else is doing, right? And so if there's like a hidden part to the game, I think it works. But the problem is that, you know, if you have people of different skill groups playing at the same time, then it's going to be super frustrating for the people who are good at the game, because they're going to have to watch the people who are bad at the game. Unless they want to be assholes and tell the people who are bad how to play the game, they need to sit there and watch the game be lost by the people who are bad at the game. And that's sort of my problem with it.
Well,
but yeah, what were you
One Day Dungeon is a bit like that, though, isn't it? Like, that's full information.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But I think the reason you think it's fine is because we're like as good as each other at that game.
But my point is that I think that's actually, I think you are correct that you probably want to add some stuff to that, maybe, because it can become I don't know what word to use. Like, it can become one person doing all the work. Yes, but I still think it's kind of interesting, because it's a bit like blaming the like, I get what you're saying if you're comparing it to like something like A Way Out, right? It's gonna be hard to play A Way Out without the other person doing something, because you both need to do things at the same time.
Yeah.
So I guess that is true.
Yeah, so I think maybe I was too harsh, right? Because I went into this going like co-op board games suck, right?
Yeah.
But now that I think of it, like if there's an aspect where like as I said, like maybe I don't know exactly everything about the other players or stuff like that.
So yeah, but then work with the turn-based.
Yeah, but like if you design a system where you're not supposed to know that, for example, right?
Okay, but if we're cooperating, I would still tell you, because
yeah, but it's against the rules, man. Come on.
Okay, sure. If it's against the rules, maybe. But it's yeah, I guess that would be one way to do it. Have to like, you can only know this thing. Oh, that's a good point, right? I mean, that's technically a video game, right? But keep talking and nobody explodes.
Oh, true.
They
good
do
point. Yes,
literally that. Yeah. So one person.
Isn't there a board game that does something similar? Probably is.
There is, but you need a board game half to that game.
Oh, okay.
Right, one person has the manual.
Yeah.
Which you can have printed.
Yeah.
And the other, like, or there can be multiple that have the manual, but one needs to have the. It's usually played in VR, right?
Yeah.
These days, I don't know if it was originally. And you have, wires that you need to move around, and the other person knows how. So the person that tells you doesn't know how it looks, and that you're right.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of like communication thing. So yeah, that might be true, because like if you might be correct, I might be wrong, I might have to change my opinion on that, but I'm not 100% sure, because another big problem with turn-based, so like what was that game? That was a video game. It looks like Fire Emblem, but it's not Fire Emblem, and it's like Advance Wars, but it's not Advance Wars.
Oh, what's it called? I know what you're talking about. Wargroove, yes.
Wargroove has a co-op campaign, and that is super annoying to play, because you have to wait on your friend to do their turn.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter, because you could just control all the units yourself.
Yeah.
So you might be right, but I feel like maybe it's less bad on a board, because sort of doing the pretzels argument here, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, well,
you can drink beer while you're waiting or something.
Maybe it's bad. Maybe you're right.
Yeah.
You win.
There is one type of game which I've actually thought about before that kind of solves this, but this is not possible in board games. Well, maybe it is possible, but like it would be very weird. And that's RTSs, because playing 2v2 in an RTS is actually fine.
Yeah, well,
and
that's
the reason for that,
all real-time
exactly,
games are fine.
Exactly.
Games.
Yeah, because there's like an element of stress there. Exactly.
Actions.
You
that's
don't
the
have
same
time
as
to
a
do
way
it.
out, right? Where you can't climb the wall putting the feet up.
Yeah.
For both, I mean, maybe if you hold two controllers, but right, in theory you can't, right, do both at the same time.
Yeah. And so that kind of solves it as well. So I guess like you need to either obscure some information, or you need to have like a real-time element in order for co-op to work. Because if it doesn't, if I can just sit there and watch my parents make us lose the game, I don't want to play it because it's painful. I guess that's my point. Yeah. That's the like fifth rant of today over.
Yeah. Should I do one then?
Yes, you have a rant. I know you have a rant ready. So go ahead.
Yeah. So this is the biggest flaw with board games by far for me, and is the reason it is actually the biggest reason I prefer video games over board games. But is it fine to say that it's the biggest? I don't know. It's a big reason.
Yeah, it is.
Like it's, but there's a lot of other reasons, right? Convenience and blah blah blah, and
Yes.
Yeah, and so they'll do stuff like, oh, you can buy this thing and you'll get all cards in foil and blah blah blah, and then there will be expansions that are exclusive to the Kickstarter, and a bunch of stuff like that, right? Which is super bad, because then it's like, oh, I bought the board game, and it's like, oh, there's this expansion, oh, but you can't get it because it was only in the Kickstarter, and you have to wait until it's their next Kickstarter, and you need to buy the like $300 tier to get all the stuff, old stuff.
Yeah.
So it's very anti-customer stuff, right? Or what do you say?
Yeah.
Hostile. Yeah, and then it's like all of them are in the States, so you need to pay a lot of shipping and stuff, right? It's super. It's like the price is basically insane to do board games. Like if you want to play video games, they're cheap. They're dirt cheap, right? Except for the like
board games aren't.
Yeah, like even compared to AAA games that are insane prices these days, right? The board games are insanely expensive for some reason. Yeah, which I feel like they. I mean, I get why they are, because there's like limited demand or whatever, but you can't play board games as much as you can video games, right? It's like I can go on Steam and buy a random video game, right, for
$10 or whatever.
$10, right? Yeah, you can't do that with board games.
Yeah.
I do.
I think
there is that thing you were trying out. I think that is really cool, and people should do that more. Where it's like, oh, a bunch of indie people can go to this website that prints like cards and stuff for them, but you need to wait in line or something, and they do like bulk orders and stuff. That is really fucking cool. I think people should do that more in the board game industry. This like big boxes with garbage that you don't need because they need to make money on the stuff. Why? Yeah.
I think it was called like the Game Crafter or something. We'll have to leave a link in the description. But basically it's like it's like a company that you can like go on their website and then you can submit like your game.
Yeah.
Like they have like, oh yeah, you have like cards of this size, and then you submit the pictures for the card, and you can like add like counters and pieces for it that they have like pre-made. And then when someone orders that game, they like make it to order. And obviously like it's pretty expensive and there's like long shipping and stuff because it's from the US and I'm in Sweden, whatever. But like that's a way more consumer friendly way to do it than, you know, shitty predatory FOMO Kickstarters.
Yes.
So I'm willing to pay that extra price. And as you said, they sometimes do like what are they called? Like crowd sales? I don't know. Where it's like if a game is like coming out soon, they'll do like, okay, if 1,000 people order the game, then, you know, we can like do them all at once and then ship them out so they get a little bit cheaper and stuff like that, which is all very nice.
Yeah. Another point to that which could be good and is good in some aspects but is bad in others, is like miniature war games. So like I don't know, I guess that's what we're called, right? Tabletop war games, whatever. You have miniatures, right? Where you build and paint and stuff. And some of those are like just rules, and that is really cool because then it's like, you can have you can build your own landscape, and you can have your own, like you can buy miniatures from wherever as long as the size is about the right size, right? And you just need some die, and then you can play, right? That's great because then it's like you can just reuse stuff you have. Then there is some very like, unfortunately, as always, the more popular ones are always the bad ones, right?
Yes.
So the bad, like super bad one is Games Workshop. I don't even know if they're called that anymore, right? Which is Warhammer.
Warhammer. Yeah.
Which is, they have gone, I don't know. Like it used to be kind of okay, but these days it's like.
Yeah, they are like super.
Oh boy.
Yeah, no comment.
It's like, you need to use their official miniatures, and it's like. You can buy. It's a lot of this. What's the word we usually use? Like where it's like, it's this character, so you need to pay like 3 times just because it's this named character instead of, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's also less interesting to me because like in that. So that's kind of funny, right? Because with video games, I like to have it like that, where it's like, it's this named character. But in that kind of game, it's more interesting to be like, I made this. And not that I'm a role player, right? But still, like, I made this king dude, right? Or whatever. And you just made it by somehow, right? It doesn't matter. Yeah. And and you can name it if you want. I don't usually care, right? But you know, right? So you can have some like character to your army or whatever, right? It's way more interesting in that space compared to. Yeah. And then you have this super lord dude that's from this thing that's, you know, that's super uninteresting in that space to me, because that's sort of more handcrafted and interesting in that way, right? Yeah,
because I think like, you know, as you said, if it's like, if you have like in the rulebook you have like a generic character profile for generic king guy, and then, you know, since it's such like a creative thing, it's like, I make my custom king and he's super cool and he's mine and whatever. Whereas it's like, this is King Stephen II from the Warhammer trademark Kingdom of trademark Britannia trademark. It's like
painted this way trademark with this banner trademark, and it's like, I don't know. In video games I like that, but in board games I feel like it's more fun. I agree. Because you're in miniature games, you actually build the stuff as well, right? So then it's sort of more interesting to personalize it a bit, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't know. We've talked for quite a while. Do you have anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I don't know. Do we want to tie it back to video games somehow?
Yeah, I don't know. Video games should learn from board games. Yes. I guess that's what we're saying. It's
but
like,
still, again, video games, in my opinion, still win because of they are. It's essentially cheaper, not in terms of just like buying them. Like, it's cheaper to create like more, I don't know, grand ideas in video games, right? It's easier to make a world come alive in video games or whatever, right? And it's easier to get the rules across, and like everything is just faster, and I don't know. So there's a lot of good stuff with video games. Unfortunately, a lot of modern games are really bad at, you know, and do make it worse and stuff. So yeah.
I think in general, I think it's like maybe it's not, but I think specifically like strategy video games
Yes.
can learn from board games. I think if strategy video
I mean,
games were more like board
action games
games,
can't really learn anything from board games.
yeah,
because
exactly.
They
But like
probably learn from like sports, probably, honestly, like, or
Yeah.
stuff like that. Is there any equivalent, like, well, yeah, you so like, exactly, sports of some kinds,
like
right?
Rocket League? I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I mean, football or whatever, that's fine. Like,
Yeah.
real sports, I mean, or like throwing darts
Oh, yeah.
or whatever, right? And,
Yeah.
And why that is fun, and yeah. But I feel like
Yeah.
those kind of games get that better than the strategy
Yeah.
games, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like a lot of strategy games move away from the strategy and become this thing where it's more about the, you know, progression and stuff,
Yeah.
which
Mhm.
sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of strategy games like fall into this complexity trap, you know. It's like, oh yeah, there's so many rules and it's so complex and there's like 50 billion different resources and whatever, and none of it's interesting whatsoever. Whereas board games, you know, there are board games that are like that, as we've said, but in general board games are a little bit more like, okay, you're supposed to be able to play this in a few hours and it's supposed to be somewhat understandable after you've read the rule book and whatever, so we need to make sure that it's somewhat simple and somewhat fun and somewhat understandable. And like if strategy games did that, I would play way more strategy games.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, if you don't have anything else you want to say, I think it's time to thank everyone for watching, and to remind them to leave a like and subscribe and leave a comment if you disagree, and a dislike if you disagree, of course.
And if
or
like
you can leave a like and leave a mean comment.
You can leave a nice comment as well if you want.
Mm-hmm. Yes. But yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye bye.